Hi folks, I hope you're well. So, from the last video, yes. Yeah, it has to be God doing it. As I said before, you know, it's up to God to prepare the ground to make it ready. To make them ready to receive. You can't help, it doesn't matter who you think you are, you cannot help the church to change. And as God prepares the ground and helps those people to be ready, you can't do sod all. All you're going to do is frustrate yourself. Because, yeah. I should have known this. It took me a long time to realise this again, but I should have known this because years ago I knew it. Again, did I? That's a fair question. Did I know it years ago? Because back in 2000, this is what, 25 years ago now, there was the young woman who had been abused horrendously. And her and her partner, boyfriend, whatever he was, fiance, boyfriend, asked me if I would pray for her to deal with that stuff. And for some reason, it had to be God. Because it wasn't in my experience to say this, but I said it. I said to her, when you're ready. Let me know when you're ready, and when you're ready, I'll pray for you. I've never said that to someone before that time. Never. I've never prayed for someone in that way before. And I'd never said that to someone before. It was God. Because, as I said, having said that years ago, I should have known. But that's the point. I said a few minutes ago that I knew years ago. Actually, I didn't. I said that, but it was what God wanted me to say. It was God speaking through me to that lady, because that lady was ready. Just a few weeks later, she was ready. I told her to go to God and ask God to help her be ready. And she was ready. It took 40 minutes for her to be set free from all of that abuse. And when I say she was horrendously abused, I mean seriously, she was horrendously abused. And it wasn't just as a kid, it continued into adulthood. With boyfriends and whatever. And she was using all types of medication. She was addicted and she was in pain. Yeah. And she left a completely different person. It took just 40 minutes. As I say, that's why. Yeah, it is true. It is very, very true. God has to make the ground ready to receive. There's too many people in church right now. There's a lot of people in church right now that are actually of God. I can't really say I've met any. No, I can't say I've met any. However, there are people in church. Of course, churches all over the world that are of God, but right now they look just like everyone else because, a lot of, even those people that are of God, they've been taught to be scared, even of truth. They've been taught to be scared of standing up and saying that, right is right, truth is truth, and so right now they need to be made ready by God. Only God can do that. But as I said, I've done the math, and unfortunately speaking, if, as I've said before, and this is so blinking true, if we had a church that was holding people accountable, if we had a church that was pointing out issues in people and trying to help people to deal with it, not pointing it out as a way of judging, but pointing it out to try and help people to deal with stuff, those not of good ground would not stay in the church. they would have left. Because it would have been blinking obvious to them that this wasn't what they wanted. That this isn't for them. Because they're not of good ground. So therefore they're not going to bear fruit. So therefore when their fruit is tested, they will see that there's no fruit. So therefore they will leave the church. The reason why they're still in the church, because that has never happened. It may, well, okay. When I say it's never happened, in my lifetime, I don't think it's happened in the church. Because, okay, during the early Pentecostal church with people like Smith Wigglesworth, it may have happened. There may have been people there that were encouraging people to do that. People like Wigglesworth would have been doing things like that. But that died off a long time ago. Maybe with them, but it may have been a generation or two afterwards. But that was a long time ago now. Over 100 years ago. Yeah. So therefore, well, around about 100 years. I don't know when Wigglesworth died. It would have been in the 30s, I would guess. So, yeah. But, yeah. So therefore, without that, holding people accountable, speaking about fruit and truth, and not caring if you offend, letting God deal with it, because that's the bloody point. People with issues will be offended by truth. Anything that's talking about that issue that people have, they're going to get offended. And quite often God will show the issues in people by how they get offended by truth. If you're afraid to offend people and you won't speak truth, how can you ever see? How will they ever see? You're supposed to see. They're supposed to see that. Offence is used by God to reveal what's inside. When you take that away, my goodness me, come on. You're losing something fundamental to the Christian walk. Whether it's Christian or whatever the walk is supposed to be named, you're losing something fundamental from that. Yet, the crap you bring into your relationship with God is supposed to be dealt with. You're supposed to be free from that. You hear in the Word of God, again, I'm touching my head here because it's so ridiculous that people don't understand this. But in the Word of God, it says the old man has died. What does that mean? It means the you that came into relationship with God. That's the old man. In most churches, the old man is still very much alive. Very much. Never been touched. Never been impacted in any way, shape or form. And that's criminal. It is. It's spiritually criminal that is the case. But as I say, I know there's nothing I can do. God has to prepare the ground. And once God has prepared the ground, then people will receive. But until then, they won't. And so, there you go. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And that's why, as I say, there's no point caring for people who have chosen a path that you can't do anything about right now. Until you can. So there you go. You take care. God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.